Zwong, 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 zwong. We're back.
Zingledy, dingledy, dingle, dingle. And then like a little bass hit.
Oh man, in case you're wondering, it's been 168 hours since we recorded last week.
Well, you were running the stopwatch the whole time.
No, it just doesn't turn off, I guess. The other weeks just kind of started. I don't know how to start this out of the blue.
Hello. Fuck, I don't know. We're not gonna top Richard Garriott is in space.
No, we're not. It's a sad precedent you've set. Idle Thumbs. Games, video 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 games.
It's October 22nd, 2008, and Peter Molyneux is smiling at your farts.
This is Idle Thumbs 3. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Nick Brecken.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Steve Gaynor.
Steve Gaynor is here with us today from 2K, actually not from 2K Marin, but he works there on
It's
BioShock
true.
2, Field of Dreams.
I drove here from 2K Marin, so you're completely correct.
Yes. Here to spill hot scoops on BioShock 2.
How did you know what I do in my free time?
Hot scoops?
Yeah, I spill hot scoops, you know. Got to put down a tarp first. I also used to write about video game occurrences on idlethumbs.internet.
Oh, man. That's our domain name?
It's .net.
It's .net.
Okay. So let's just get it right into it, I guess. Nick and I, earlier today, were at the wacky unveiling, if you can call it that, of Star Wars.
The old Republic.
That old Republic.
Yeah.
This old house.
Yeah, that dang old Republic.
That old Republic.
Oh.
What did you think of that old Republic, Nick?
It was, this one's all about story now, I guess. Do you guys like Star Wars stories?
Well, Steve,
Are you going to tell us one?
Wait, it's an MMO about stories?
That their whole angle is that this is going to be the MMO that's all about story now, like the fourth pillar of MMOs that has been undiscovered.
That's all
which
about
is a fair point because it's pretty much true.
Sure, yeah, it is a fair point, but do
all
you like
about
Star Wars stories?
Well, you like Steve. You like KOTOR, right?
I liked KOTOR. Yeah, I thought it was good. And this is also a BioWare developed thing.
Yeah.
So and
a lot of the people who worked on KOTOR are working on this.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would be less worried about liking a Star Wars story and more worried about liking an MMO story because
I think that's the more accurate worry. Yeah.
Right, because there is story in World of Warcraft, but it's just a really weird format. Game format to tell stories.
Also, right. It's exactly. I mean, it's not so much the quality of the actual narrative, quality of the plot or sort of characters or whatever, that is the worry, I think, so much as, or the setting for that matter. It's how do you actually convey a story in a way that isn't totally blatantly artificial and ridiculous? I mean, that's...
Well, I mean, you convey it through a bunch of the same quests that everyone does and the same instances that everyone does that has no actual bearing on the overall world.
I'm saying, how do you convey a story that doesn't just do that?
Did they talk about that at all as a thing that they're interested in, or did they just say this is about story, which means that they are trying a little harder to write the quests?
What Chris described as pretty accurately is it's the brute force approach, which is every class is going to have a storyline. It's almost like a self-contained single-player arc that you're going to get for each of the class.
Apparently there isn't a single quest that will overlap between the classes.
Yes.
You can help other people on their quests if they're of different classes, but that's not part of your own arc.
But then you're in the same world with other people that share your class that are going through the same story.
Right. So in the reality of playing that game, the storyline is going to be reduced to a bunch of shorthand acronyms that someone asks if you're playing this facet of the story.
Because that's the weirdest part about MMO story to me. Yeah, it's I'm in the middle of this gripping mission thing where it's important to a man, and it's just going to happen to 1,000 other people while I'm watching.
Yeah, that was really disappointing me. The few times that I ever attempted to play WoW, I'm not really an RPG person, and especially not an MMO person. But I would have friends who were higher level than me, and they'd sort of jump over to me and say, "Oh, you playing whatever Dungeon X 247?" Obviously, that had a real name, but I don't know what the fuck it is. And it's like, oh yeah, I am. I just thought that I had discovered this for myself, but apparently, I mean, obviously, I hadn't. But the game fiction kept trying to make me feel like I was on this crazy quest
player of some kind.
Yeah, and then the massive multiplayers in the actual world came in and reminded me that I was actually playing a giant IRC channel.
Mean, the biggest problem is that everybody turns it into essentially just I think one of the problems is even no matter how well the story is executed, it's possible to just turn it into a grind no matter what. Like that happened to Nick, you played Diablo 2. I don't think these guys did so much, but Diablo 2? What?
I played it.
Yeah, you didn't play it online though, and that's relevant aspect of like
fair enough.
What I mean to discuss. Like that game, I really enjoyed actually playing the story with friends. Especially the first few times I played it, because everything was new. We're going through the cutscenes. I thought were very effective in terms of telling a parallel story to the one that your character is experiencing, which I thought was a way of communicating something. But then as soon as you sort of get online and you reach a certain level, it becomes nothing but, all right, man, like we got a group of 8 here. We're going to go through. We've got a guy who's level 99. We're all going to run through. A bunch of shit's going to drop. And you beat the game in like 10 minutes flat.
Yeah.
And it's the most ludicrous, like transparent experience. And it's almost impossible to avoid that. Like, I mean.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard in. Yeah. The way I've thought about it before is, every game that has an authored story is basically like that. Like single player game. It's like you're at home, you're by yourself, you're playing a single player game and going through this story, and it feels relevant to you. And it's not apparent at the time that millions of other people who bought this game are having more or less the exact same experience.
There were ghost players,
and then when
Fable 2 might be one of the closest.
But then you're playing WoW, and it's like all those other millions of people who are having the exact same experience you are doing it in front of your face. And this isn't important to you or anyone.
Or
it's really sad to see that.
More transparently have done it before you have. And then,
you're in the process of killing some
slay this man and save the world.
Right.
Yeah, it always.
I gotta wait 5 minutes until the guy respawns because that guy just saved the world.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That stuff is so sad.
My
like
bad.
WoW works amazingly well when you're like in a town, because it's like, oh, there's just a crazy hustle and bustle of a million people. But then once you're out in the wilderness and just like another crazy goblin goes like jumping by, basically just jumping and saying hilarious things at you, and and they happen to be exactly the thing you were thinking about.
That's actually
the saddest thing ever.
That's actually why I think Diablo 2 worked so well for me when I first played it with friends, because we all were playing it at the same pace, and the persistence is limited to your group. So you never have that illusion broken unless you invite it in. Essentially,
yeah. It's such a weird thing though, because like when you go see a movie in the theater, you and 150 other people are having the exact same experience simultaneously, even though you all have emotional investment, and it's so much different when I guess there's some assumption that it's supposed to be like you're supposed to be driving the events as an individual when you're playing a video game.
I think the fact that when it works, you do feel that, and then when it's broken, that sucks. You don't go into a movie with the expectation of like you're going to have any effect on these two characters falling in love. But when you're playing a game, it's like, man, like you actually do invest your own actions, have a point, and then 4 other dudes go by like, oh, hey, you fucking doing this? Like, oh, I was, but now you're here.
I don't think it's just that, because, I mean, that's true in comparison to sort of MMOs versus single-player games, but speaking just more generally, with films, you can kind of put yourself in a space where, if this is the way you enjoy films, this is a chronicle of something that happened in the past. And it doesn't matter how many people are watching it with you, because it's already assumed this has happened and it's set in stone. And there's suspense as to what will happen, but that's because you don't know whether it'll happen or not. Whereas, and that's the same in a single-player game. I mean, you can easily get that experience.
But in World of, just using World of Warcraft as an example.
Right, but MMOs generally.
Of City of Heroes or whatever you want to pick, where the fiction implies that you are supposed to be important man.
You're supposed to have agency.
Right, and then you're no more important than anyone else who's doing the exact same quest, and it's weird.
Yeah.
In fact,
I think that's why they're separating it out.
Did they talk about Star Wars? Like could you have 4 engineers all having their important story happening in front of one each?
They really didn't discuss.
They talked about how like each class. I think I'm not sure if this is related to the companion thing, which is something altogether different. But how you'll be, doing your little single player arc, and then when you get together with a bunch of other people, they're going to have, other quests that are completely different that are going to be designed for your little group, So they'll be like, they use that analogy of the original Star Wars movie where Han had his own story, and then but then they also had the sort of main plot arc of Star Wars. So
yeah, it sounds like what they're really trying to do is, and this from a sort of pure game design perspective sounds great, but I still don't know how to work in a massively multiplayer setting. seems like they're really trying to take a lot of the core tenets of BioWare games, which are, companion characters that actually respond uniquely to your input and your choices, your sort of path through the game. That makes sense because those are AI characters that are so in
the Star Wars MMO they're going to have AI characters that have like personalities and stuff.
Right,
that's interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting and fairly cool. And I mean,
because when you just named the feature, I assumed it was some version of like the like sidekick feature from City Heroes, like helping a lower level player.
No.
It's an AI guy that has
a fully authored, sort of actual.
And you'll be able to like shape them, based on your actions and shit. Like,
you kind of level them up.
You level them up. You do level them up.
You can equip them. You can customize them. The choices that you make when you're like, they'll have subplots. I mean, there will be potentially romantic or sort of betrayal based or.
Can you get romantically involved with your AI companion
in
character?
Fable 2, the original, the Old Republic, you can.
Did you say Fable 2, the Old Republic?
Yes.
Good. Fable.
Fable. Yeah. No, but, I'm curious to see what the deal is. I talked to Daniel Erickson, who's the lead writer on the game, for quite a while, and he said they have 12 full-time writers, which is several times larger than any previous BioWare game to date. And he indicated that they.
An MMO just generally has so much fucking content.
They said they've already developed more content than all BioWare games previously combined.
Sweet.
Which is kind of insane, but I mean, they said they basically are like sort of taking the approach of each of these classes needs essentially a BioWare game worth of stuff, which, starts to point to why Electronic Arts paid $800 million for BioWare and Pandemic, because not that they haven't put out good games, because they have, but nothing they've put out is on the order of why you would be spending that much money.
So is there some kind of implication like that, for instance, as someone who really prefers single player games almost all the time, with exceptions, but
I'm similar.
That I could, for instance, basically just buy this and subscribe for 2 months and kind of solo through all of the class's story arcs and kind of play it like a series of single player games.
I think you probably. I mean,
maybe it might take longer.
Said,
but
yes, you can do that. I mean,
and they actually talked about the end of the game several times as if they're more like speaking as if it was an actual traditional single player game. The interesting thing that they brought up was that the 50% statistic, where they said that 50% of they did a study where 50 across MMOs, and maybe it was a World of Warcraft specific study, but they're talking about how 50% of players of World of Warcraft play the game just as a single player game, but enjoy the fact that other people can see that they're cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So like, it just purely from that perspective,
they're basically showing off.
Yeah,
but playing it like you're playing by yourself. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if more people did that most of the time.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. A higher, like maybe 50% of people do that pretty much always, but a higher percentage do that sometimes. Yeah.
I've put a few months into WoW over the years, and that's pretty much. I mean, I grouped out of convenience, sort of like, oh, there's some dudes that needed a guy in their group. I'll go run a dungeon or something, and not really be that invested in it.
Where I always lose it is when my friends get higher, better than me.
Exactly,
which is like what we were just talking about. Like once you lose that sense of like isolated progression, then you're just.
And then on the other side of that, I would, since I didn't play with other people, I would stop when I got bored, which would usually take.
Yeah, exactly.
I usually got to like level like 24 or something like that, and I kind of. I mean, there's more complex stuff on the higher end of sort of the progression curve, but I felt like I had kind of gotten it by that point.
Right.
I've kind of seen what there is to offer for the kind of player I am,
right?
And now I'm going to not.
I came to the same conclusion. I came to the exact same conclusion where I kind of figured, all right, I have definitely exhausted this game for me. And that was in 2005, so I never saw any of the expansion content or anything. But
I the last time I played was right before the first expansion came out, and I could tell that they had changed a lot, and it felt, more balanced and stuff. But the fundamental experience hadn't changed. I enjoyed it for a while, but I think you do kind of have to dig into the social side of it for it to have lasting appeal.
Well, I played it for a couple months with friends that I knew from real life, and it was sort of coincidence that we all picked it up at the same time. Or relatively close to one another, and that was awesome. Like, it was a lot of fun. And then as they started to sort of trail off, and we started to sort of not all necessarily be playing simultaneously, I just kind of got less and less intrigued by it. So, and then eventually I stopped.
Yeah.
For me, actually, the biggest factor to contributing to my being done was no longer being able to discover new areas because I discovered everything.
Oh, really?
And a huge part of my enjoyment of World of Warcraft was finding a new area and just kind of looking around and exploring it and being like, God damn, this skybox is gorgeous. Like, these mountains are great. Like, I really like how that game
These
looks.
mountains are great.
They're fantastic.
Look at those trees.
I really enjoy. I like that was. That's probably my favorite part of the game. I have to say, I really enjoyed it.
We're done with those noises now.
I'm sorry. Oh man, it's awesome. I'm going to dump a hot scoop on you. When you're when you're making a BioShock level and you're using like the original BioShock stuff as placeholder, blocking some stuff. So you can do a developer command that's just slow-mo, and you can do a positive numbers to make it fast motion to go skip through stuff.
Oh my god, can you recreate 300?
I guess you could.
You could totally speed ramp that shit, Chris.
Where you go fast for a second.
I've never seen 300, but I've
really? You've seen the trailers and the Watchmen trailer. Yes. I've heard you talk about it. Yeah. It's a pet peeve of yours.
You talked about it last week enough?
There's a lot of things you hate. Anyway.
Oh, like you.
Sorry.
Good work.
Thank you.
Point being, I went into fast forward times 3 and just kind of hung out near a Big Daddy. And the whale sounds sped up are awesomely just sound like a sound guy going. Well, the Big Daddy voice.
Yeah, right.
That sound. It sounds to me like a whale sound.
Right,
I don't know, but sped up, it sounds much more like a guy just going. And it made me really happy.
Are those whale sounds? Do you think what the sound designer did?
I mean, I have no idea. I couldn't parse them, but basically, I assume you'd have the same effect if you took a whale sound and sped it up to 3 times. It would just sound like a pathetic small whale going. But no, I have no idea what the actual composition of a Big Daddy sound is. Like, sound guys are generally
that would
crazy.
be a hot scoop.
Yeah.
Sound guys, when sound guys do reveal what they've built a sound out of, it's usually like 8 different things that you never would have guessed.
Like the punches in Indiana Jones movies, they're like this is like 4 car crashes, like a bag of sand dropped off the Empire State Building.
Me hitting a pork loin.
Right.
Well, and sometimes it's awesomely very specific. It's like, this is a 1968 Porsche Roadster going around a turn, a left turn specifically.
The Speedway.
Yeah, exactly.
2 years ago. Yeah. Can you reveal, is BioShock 2 Field of Dreams, is that about sandcastles? Is that what's coming out of the ocean in the trailer?
All I can tell you is that if we build it, I've heard that they will come. Yeah. So that's what we're going to try.
You're going to try to build it?
Yeah. Just see if anybody comes.
Someone will probably. I'll come, Steve.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Cool.
That's nice of you.
Yeah.
Whoa. Jake's not coming.
Well, we'll see once
it's built.
Once it's built.
Yeah. We'll see how you're singing that tune.
It's pretty mysterious.
I'll be singing it.
Once it's been built.
I'll be there.
And Kevin Costner walks into the
when
middle.
The lights
Costner in BioShock 2.
Go on and whatnot.
Yeah. When a ghost man emerges from corn and says something about objectivism, we'll see whether you've come or not.
This is getting horrible.
What do you mean?
So we've said hardly anything about Star Wars, but I guess that's okay.
We talked about Star Wars for kind of a long time.
We talked about
it for a while.
I found out that there are AI teammates that follow you about.
Let's recap.
Yeah. I think
what have we learned?
We probably said more than the developers did at this point. They didn't say anything.
Yes. Yeah. So we were just putting words into BioWare's mouth in this podcast.
Right. So, BioWare, make the game we described.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks.
Signed a forum.
The internet.
Signed a podcast.
All right. So, I guess, Nick, do you want to quickly, to that guy who wrote in about Gears of War, do you want to follow up on that? About how he doesn't want to have to buy it because it's the same?
Huh?
Remember last week there was a dude who wrote in and he was like,
I thought we did this last week. What are you talking about?
No, because you couldn't talk. You said the embargo. You were still under embargo. It's up today, right? Or yesterday?
The multiplayer? No.
So
the
when's the
review
embargo up?
That's like in a week.
Oh, well, never mind. Forget it.
Sorry, guy.
You got to keep listening to podcasts. This might happen. This might happen every week. Oh, the embargo's up next week. My mistake. Guess you'll have to listen again.
Is Embargo up
you're
yet?
Getting saucier and saucier.
Yeah.
By the way, Happy New Year's. The embargo is not up yet.
November 2nd, 2009.
How's that embargo going? Still in effect. Listen next week.
They're going to be on Gears of War 4 by the time we get our this embargo going on here.
And that guy will have bought none of them.
He'll still be waiting.
Listen to Jay.
What? All Until right. Nick Brecken drops a hot scoop?
I like the scoops.
I do.
All right. So I guess, in that case then, I guess I can talk about Fable 2, which released this week.
Fable 2000.
It was in fact released today.
Today? Well, actually, no, yesterday now, according to when our podcast will be casted into the face of our listeners.
The day that I recorded this was the first day it was in a store, and I played it to some degree.
You just you're not acclimated to podcasting.
You have to pretend that you recorded it, then immediately hit the publish button on iTunes.
You gotta think in the future, man.
Okay.
We're a day ahead of you.
You're listening to this live. As you are playing this MP3 file, we are uploading it to your computer.
This is in fact a stream.
Yeah.
We're casting our stream into your face.
Streaming the hot scoops.
Streamcast.
Anyway,
okay, so
Fable
2.
Yes, yesterday.
And Nick, you've been playing it as well, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
How far are you? How much of? I mean, I guess it doesn't matter how far you are because you can do things, but
I can't. Do things.
Things that are aside from the main story. But I mean, how much of it have you played?
I don't know, like 8 hours or something.
Okay, so that's a pretty significant amount.
Yeah.
Did you buy the
main
castle?
story actually isn't all that long. I got the castle actually. I want to announce that. Yeah. I bought the castle.
You want to make an announcement?
I do, because Peter Molyneux screamed at me in a letter
yeah, right.
to please buy the castle and
Peter
see what
Molyneux
happens.
found the caps lock button.
And he did, and it worked. I bought the goddamn castle. In fact, after last week, after talking about
they do tease it really hard at the beginning. They're like, "Look at that castle! I wish I could go inside of that castle. Right. Castle.
Yeah.
Someday."
So
no, they just said it a bunch.
Yeah, the guy said it 3 times in a row.
It was a lady.
It's foreshadowed. Ooh. So, the real estate pretty much became the game for me. Like, the metagame essentially became my Fable experience.
Oh yeah, you published a Gamasutra article about this.
I did.
I read it. It made me interested in the game.
Well, I'm glad.
And then I played a little bit of it at work with the co-op feature, which was interesting.
Excellent. Well, you can talk about that then, because I haven't played that yet.
Oh, really? You haven't done any of the co-op?
I haven't signed in a few days.
So yeah, one of my coworkers bought it and brought it in, and I played it for about an hour from the beginning. So it was the childhood part. Yeah, it was the childhood part. Does anybody have any idea? Can you actually affect your childhood version's appearance when by doing good and evil things? Like, do you actually?
No, because that section is really short, but that stuff does affect the world and your character as an adult.
Because I was just kicking chickens all over the place.
Chicken kicking it's not a moral act one way or the other. Yeah.
Oh, I would think it would be evil to just kick chickens.
It does grant you the title chicken kicker.
Yeah. Well, I fully was kicking chickens like off of the second story of a building.
Yeah. No, but that doesn't. But
no, if you kicked them off the third floor.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
because I imagined. People that, there were spectators, people watching me play it, and for some reason I kicked some chickens, and then we were tricked into thinking that my little child had started to look more evil.
Oh, really?
But I guess that's not...
That's the chicken kicking effect.
I mean, the game is
the hilarious thing was that I picked the female character, and we all imagined that after I kicked a number of chickens, my little girl, got eyeliner. It started to look mildly goth, and then I didn't do anything evil for a while, and they're like, wait, did her eyeliner go away? But I guess we were just all
she's
wrong.
Just getting older.
Man, but Molyneux smiles.
Yeah.
Broadly at that story.
He smiled a lot when I used his analog farting input mechanic.
This game is like Molyneuxed out to the extreme. Like, the very first item I found for sale was a condom. Like, it was just
Molyneux.
Item number 1. Have you ever seen him talk? Because that guy, I just get the sense every character in the game is a hilarious parody of British people. It's just I don't know. This is the game Peter Molyneux would make, and then he made it. My dog.
He's been doing that for a while.
No, I know. Yeah, I know. But this one is
he gets to make games
or something. It's
that was the working title.
It's
Molyneux Unleashed.
My dog immediately led me to a hole in the ground that had a condom in it after buying a condom from a merchant. And, the problem with all that stuff in Fable is that it doesn't end up actually being very effective when you deal with characters in the game.
Condoms.
There's condoms. Like, there are a million different expressions you can perform. Like things, like
the big array thing.
Right.
Yeah,
there's a big array.
Radial menu of expressions.
Like there are aggressive ones and passive ones and funny ones and all sorts. And they all affect how people think of you, except your expressions like do splash damage. So they actually affect like everybody within a certain radius, which means you can sort of sit there and seduce somebody. And if you're of high enough renown, like everybody in town will already be gathered around you. So you can essentially convince like 40 people to have sex with you, like
at once.
They won't actually, you can't actually have an orgy, but I mean, you can get them all ready for it.
You can get them lined up.
Just like one by one. But I mean, I don't know. It
horrible.
It ends up being really sort of, it becomes such a video game that it ends up being not actually like very affecting, because it's like, well, all I have to do is sit here and press this button for a minute, and then the person will love me.
In the beginning part, it was weird because not only not only was there sort of like crowd influence, but also it was weirdly not consistent across all members of the crowd. So like when I was in child mode,
like there's one guy going boo.
There was a group of children.
Tastes,
I guess So, but it is just kind of
not
weird.
Everyone likes you.
Yeah, but it is that's true.
Steve.
I mean, there's 3 of them in this room right now,
oh, sorry,
I forgot what I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
So it's weird because I would do an emote in front of a group of children, and like 60% of them would like it, and the other 40% would not like it, and so it points to the kind of thing you're implying, where maybe I'm sort of focusing on one guy and trying to influence him, and then other guys will stand around and have the opposite effect, and you could kind of inadvertently fuck up a relationship with,
which doesn't make any sense.
I know the one thing that there was, if you went near with someone, you held down the left trigger, it would like focus on them.
But it doesn't matter. It's still
it doesn't do single shot on. Oh,
no,
weird.
It doesn't.
Single shot.
Yeah.
They all think still, you're winking
emotion
focused emotion attack.
What it does when you sort of focus on them like that.
Charging up the emotions.
Yeah. Well, you do.
Just walking around with your charged up emotion beam and
go hard. But when you have a guy focused, that means you can look at their sort of specific likes and dislikes and stuff like that.
Look into their soul.
Look into
you can. And it comes up in a text. Fucking breakdown at the top of the
their
screen.
soul says that they are bisexual.
Part of what is so ridiculous about it is like you can see, and it's like
you can see their stats
likes this thing. Like how do you know that? And, like,
exactly. Yeah,
that should be the kind of stuff you find out by interacting with them.
Yeah,
it's not the stuff that tells you how to interact with them.
Yeah, I mean, I could even see that stuff just being gradually revealed depending on what their relation, like how much they liked you or whatever. Not even like they actually had to say it, but just sort of
like their stat window opens up its heart to you as you learn more about them.
Well,
chocolate.
That would at least be one step. That would be one step better than just being psychic.
Fading in as you learn about someone, as like an analogy for that is.
Well, I mean, in Fable 2, it would in fact be that you would like dance and give them the thumbs up and fart in front of them, and as their favor of you went up, you would just start to be able to discern. He really likes chocolates.
It would be nice if then as they like you less,
they like strategy chocolate.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible.
But yeah, I have to say, Peter Molyneux did get it right with the dog. I really like the dog, and that seemed like one of the lame things when he was first talking it up, but I like it. Like, I don't know if you guys care about the dog at all, but I really enjoy having the dog.
I didn't get to hang out with the dog very much as childhood.
He's funny.
But I did. Yeah, no, it seemed pretty good.
Like the thing that
it's
I like
not very
most,
functional, but I mean,
well,
I remember when Black and White 2 was being demoed at GDC. I think Molyneux was really, really excited about how you could zoom in on the grass and there were fleas. And
no, there were ants.
Oh, is it ants?
Yeah.
Well, in this game, it'd be fleas because there's a dog.
You
I want to zoom in on my dogs for really close and see fleas.
They retained that feature for Black and White 2, which I played like last year. You could zoom in all the way to the ground to see ants.
I played that game. But my point about the dog wasn't that it was functional. It's that I like having it around. My point wasn't that like it allowed me to do a bunch of specific gameplay functions. It was that it did what Fable 2 to me seemed like it was trying to do with the people, which was be convincing, essentially. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, the dog is convincing. Like, it acts like a dog does. And when you're in town, it interacts with the humans in a way more realistic way than you ever do. Like, it kind of comes up to them and, like, leans up on them like a dog would, and they're all excited by it, and they pet him. And it's really, like, sort of endearing. And when you're running, my favorite part about the dog is that he'll, like, start running faster than you. and anticipate where you're going. And the game is clever about it because the game has an idea of where you're going based on the quest marker, right? Yeah. And he kind of like zigzags around it, and like it feels like
that seems more enjoyable than the actual like meta UI element of the like golden line thing.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, it would be a really painful way to actually play the game because
did you like after you get out of childhood, is the ground marker line breadcrumb trail thing as important as it was in that part?
It's like in a shock game or whatever, like in Dead Space recently, where you can set it to wherever you want to go, and it'll. I
mean, in my experience and in like Dead Space and stuff, it just points to your next objective, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you can set it in Dead Space. You can set
what your quest is, and
you can also set it in this game. Like it'll default to your latest quest, but I often would change it because I didn't want to do that quest.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess my question was in the open world, is it feasible to turn off the breadcrumb trail and use your dog as your direction?
No, it wouldn't be because the dog's thing is based on the breadcrumb trail thing.
So. Yeah. So
you can just turn off just the visual part of it.
So in the UI, you control what your dog is excited about, basically, instead of
I don't think there's an option.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I mean, I know I did go into in the options. You can turn off the breadcrumb trail.
Oh, really? I didn't notice.
Yeah, I turned it off in the demo, in the first hour. And so I figure if there's no visualization of that, but your dog just tends to follow it, then that would be nice.
That's a cool hypothesis. I don't know though. I mean, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Yeah, but I mean, that'd be cool.
It was fun. It was fun playing the co-op because
what's the co-op like?
Because playing co-op in the child mode was
Does one character play as the girl, or are you both your own characters?
One plays as the main character, and the other one was just a sort of random boy child that spawned in, a henchman or whatever. But it was basically just we both ran around and spazzed out and just acted like obnoxious children running all around the city, just like kind of, you know, not even trying to complete objectives, just sort of running up to people and farting at them and laughing at them,
right? And
just sort of hitting other children with our wooden swords and making them cry and just being horrible kids, in an undirected way. It was fun because you don't kind of run into that many obnoxious English street child simulators, and so in the sort of fucking around in any open world game kind of way, but with a different fiction. It was enjoyable to be sort of a harmless but misanthropic force running around the city, ruining people's lives in very small ways. I don't know, like some of the technical stuff about it was weird, like the actual camera. Like locally, there's no split screen, so it's really easy for one of the characters to get off screen or whatever. Right. It was not that easy to play. I think
you were both on the same console.
Yeah, we were just doing on the couch at work, and so I think it was more geared towards online for the most part.
Yeah, that's pretty common these days.
But no, I had a good time with it. I'd be interested to see what happens in the adult phase.
I mean, jumping off something you said, and God, it really sounds like I'm just ragging on Fable 2, and I really liked it a lot.
Well, you told me earlier you hate it.
No, I really do.
You told me that too. Yeah.
I hate you guys. No, I really enjoyed Fable 2, and I like the first one too. So I mean, it's stands to reason that I'd like this one. But I do wish that you mentioned open world a few times, and I really wish this was a true open world. Like I wish it was sort of like Bethesda style. There's an actual.
I go back and forth with that breadcrumb trail. It's like I like the way that it, because I hate just running through, like in Fable. I hated just running from quest to quest. And this, directs you, but at the same time, I ended up just following the fucking thing, just exclusively just running from quest to quest, and at that point, it just seemed like okay, I'm just warping from place to place. And
is Fable 2 still very constrained like Fable 1 was, where it's like you kind of go down paths as opposed to
When you say paths, do you mean like physically or like the quest line?
Yeah, like physical paths, like.
Well, I mean, it's like a series of tunnels, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you can shoot.
The only like truly open areas are like the cities, basically. Right. Yeah. Like every other area is essentially like a cavern or like a beach or like. I mean, there's forests where you can kind of go off the path, but there's not much to it. Like I would love to have seen a game like this that had a Bethesda style structure with the actual like mechanics and visual design of this, like a more inviting kind of colorful world.
Yeah,
but with a place that actually has like individual towns. Yeah,
what, Oblivion wasn't colorful enough for you?
No, it wasn't. Like, is that a joke?
It's just Oblivion with a dog.
Yeah. That thing was green as hell. There was lots of colors compared to Morrowind, for instance.
there might be a lot of colors, but they're of
I don't know what you're
kind
saying.
Of hue going on. I don't know how to describe it. It's not.
Fable is warm, and Oblivion is not generally warm. It's colorful, but
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's not as inviting, like colorful.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
More realistic.
Fables, keeps the fire going.
It's less fanciful, I guess. Sort of like they're obviously both fantasy games, and probably
But one is a fanciful game.
Yeah, there's a difference between fancy and fantasy.
Yeah,
and I should know.
I guess it's not even just the visual design too. Like as cool as Oblivion is, in terms of actually someone making a game with that kind of scope, it's amazing these days. But it's just generally the world is not exciting to me.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. It's I don't know. Whereas Fallout, that game is sort of has a lot of drabness to the color design, but I feel like that's exactly what that world needs.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, that's what I want this kind of like desolate wasteland to be. Whereas Oblivion, it just doesn't.
I'd play that video game.
I would play that
Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Please turn off the podcast now.
No, seriously.
And the cast. We should probably stop now.
Hardcore game nourishment, extreme flavor, turn-based rank, third-person pineapple, German-style board game, Xbox Live Arcade port churro, extreme, that's right, video game, Jay Aller, walk screen, game on,
What? Jay Allard game on? Is that what you said?
That's a flavor.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
So now that you've heard that word from our sponsor, welcome back to Idle Thumbs.
I feel good about stuff now.
Yeah, get a big old chug of Ultra Boost.
Of Jay Allard.
Jesus.
What?
I'm just...
So Steve, as our honored guest
at
2K Marin, tell us the ending of BioShock
2. Next. I have no clever response to a funny question.
Oh, I had one question which actually isn't directly about 2K or about BioShock 2.
I don't want to hear that's actually for the best.
Well, no.
What are your thoughts on the presidential campaign?
No. Yes. I think is actually kind of cool.
Ron Paul.
You heard it here first. The BioShock 2 team endorses Ron Paul. Oh no, I think it's cool that you are someone. Maybe everyone does this and I don't know it, but I know that you made a bunch of levels in your spare time, and like that was a cool thing that you did. And I don't have a question here, but I was just sort of wondered if you could speak to being a professional level designer at this point, who came up entirely through the level design community. Yeah, I think that's cool.
Sure. I mean,
I don't know what answer there is to that.
There's Steve's answer.
Yes, here it comes. About to drop a hot scoop.
Drop some science.
Ultra Boost.
Jake is flabbergasted.
Yeah. So is that into your question?
I'm pretty Ultra Boost. Good, great. Ultra Boost is a registered trademark.
Ultra Boost.
Yeah, make sure that you Ultra Boost before making your level.
Yeah. All mods should include Ultra Boost.
So the answer is, I guess,
like, do people make fun of you? Do they call you names?
Come on. All right, let our honored guest answer.
Did I just become Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? I'm allowed to play the reindeer games. They let me. It's cool now. So I guess not everybody who I've worked with as a level designer started out doing amateur maps, though I guess probably most of them. Like
that's probably more common in kind of the first-person shooter sphere, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more common just generally of guys who have been in the industry longer, just since like mod making tools or like single player level making tools were a little bit more common to be released and supported. Whatever, the further back you go into kind of the late 90s, Quake, Doom, and up to Half-Life 1 kind of arena. So some of the guys we work with like got their first jobs in development in like the art department, but they had done amateur level design in their own time, and they kind of transitioned to design by having their feet in both arenas and feeling more like they were interested in design than art, stuff like that. But generally, the question being what's up with having made maps and then getting to make them for a job.
I don't know, I was just sort of curious about that path in general.
Yeah.
If you have something cool to say about it, that's fine about yourself.
Well, no, I
you don't.
God, you're being abusive here.
I
consumed some Ultra Boost during the break.
Because they will be berated.
No.
I mean, personally, I was pretty like focused on actually turning amateur level design stuff into a career. Like, I think with a lot of people, it's the other way around, where it's sort of like they're making levels as a thing they do, and then they're like, oh, hey,
like a true hobby.
Yeah, like I found out through just being a pure hobbyist that I could do this for a living. I was sort of aware of, I was interested in design, and I didn't have any marketable skills or any reason for anyone to hire me ever. So I was aware that, you can get into design via level design, and you can get into level design by making levels. And of course, on the other side of that, I picked a game that I liked a lot and that had released a single player.
Fear?
Yeah. Fear, the Monolith game. Around the time I was kind of trying to pick the tool set I was going to make my amateur project with, I was psyched on Fear, and I had played No One Lives Forever 2 recently. And they released both an editor and all the single player content, like to make your own single player levels, which is what I was really interested in. And so I just went off on that as far as like, hey, here's a game I'm excited about and that will let me make the kind of levels I want to make for it. And that really helps you maintain enthusiasm if you're just sort of like, I want to play this level that I'm going to make because I really love the game it's about. And then, going forward from there, it's nice to have actually been able to make that into a job, because making levels is still fun.
Yeah.
The video game men ran around the square and I shot them.
And you were hired pretty early in the life of 2K Marin, right?
Yeah. I was the fourth. Well, no, I mean, I was the fourth member of the design team and the second guy they hired after the initial seed people from Boston. That
was more because of your idle thumbs past than your later levels.
Right. Yes. In actuality, weirdly, the guys at 2K Marin had read stuff on my blog, and that I had like written, like had republished on Gamasutra and stuff before we met. So the cool thing is that I started making levels because I wanted to get into design and make that stuff, and then I started the blog initially as a kind of level design journal. Like I'll track my progress and put screenshots up and talk about the process and stuff. And then I got hired for the level design stuff and maintained the blog more as kind of a thoughts theory space, and both of those ended up contributing to my being hired at 2K Marin, because I'm a fairly junior guy. I had shipped one expansion pack before I started working on BioShock 2, and so I think having both a bunch of stuff I had built and here's what I think about video games and theory and stuff was helpful compared to people who've been in the industry for like 10 years or whatever. I'm sorry.
Now you're under arrest.
This podcast is being rated.
Yeah. What I was gonna say was
tortured screams.
I'm sure like the vast majority of listeners already know this, but just to be clear, 2K Marin is a studio that was formed. Was it last year or this year?
Last year, right?
No, it was.
Was it December?
I mean, it was last year. It was like December of last year, but it kind of came into its real kind of life at the very beginning of this year. Yeah. And
it was initially staffed up. Its core members were from 2K Boston, formerly Irrational, that made BioShock.
Yeah, so. And there were representatives of all the different departments that came over kind of as expert seed personnel.
Yeah.
And the project director, who's now our executive producer, came over, and a couple guys from design, a couple guys from
Alyssa?
Yeah, Alyssa Finley. And then a couple design guys, a couple programming guys, and one or two guys from art, and
I think it worked. I think it bears mentioning that your creative director, Jordan Thomas, he was the guy who, as I recall, designed Fort Frolic in the original BioShock.
That's right, and our lead level designer is Jean-Paul Le Breton, who designed Arcadia.
Yeah, so I mean, seems, I don't know, those are pretty rad things.
Yeah,
I mean, for Frolic, I think like everyone agrees was like one of the standout moments of that game.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we're definitely lucky to have gotten some of the really talented people from Boston to come and jumpstart this whole enterprise. But I'm sure you could practically pick any cross section of Boston folks, and you would have an incredibly talented group of people.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
But yeah, having guys that made such cool content like that available as both to give us critique on stuff and to show us how to make a video game level in a BioShock is good.
Okay, clearly people are getting murdered or like a building's burning down.
Right.
This building is burning down.
This building is burning down. So
a cop car has just smashed through your wall.
Final podcast.
It smashed through a helicopter, then through your wall, and now we're being arrested. It sucks.
It was probably pretty epic from the outside.
Yeah, play by play. So have the citizens of Rapture devised a underwater breathing plasmid for the sequel?
Yeah,
on the hot scoops.
In the meantime, the citizens of Rapture, they've been hanging out. They've been kicking some ideas for new plasmids around.
They had some pretty crazy plasmids. You think?
Well, no, I just like the idea of them just continuing to exist.
To create plasmids.
Just like all those people,
all these like charred husks of humanity.
Just the idea that after BioShock 1 ended, all the citizens of Rapture are just kind of still hanging out there right now. Like Rapture's a place that all those dudes are just kind of like.
Do you guys visit there for research?
I haven't gone.
Yeah. Once you've been on the team for at least a year.
Did you hear? You know about this place, Dubai? You've heard of this, right?
Yeah, the physical location in the real world. Yes,
in real life.
Yes.
And have you heard about how they allegedly have an underwater hotel?
Yeah, I did. That was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. And did you hear about how it's hilarious and fake?
No.
A guy that I met in London who's a friend of a friend was telling me how he worked in Dubai for like 6 months, and he went to the underwater hotel, and they attempted to build the hotel underwater and realized it was a completely stupid idea that would never work. And so what happens is you go to the submarine docks and you get in a bus that is dressed up like submarine from the outside, and the people getting into it can't necessarily tell that it's a bus. Right. Like you can't see the wheels from inside the sub docks.
Right.
But you get in it, and they're LCD.
Is it like in shallow water?
They're LCD monitors facing inwards on all the windows around it. Yeah. That the bus starts going down a ramp, and video on the LCD monitors shows water rising, and then shows underwater.
It's like the Disney submarine.
It's like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And so the bus drives for a little ways, and then it stops at the sub dock in the underwater hotel. And you get out, and you go into the hotel, and it's all done up as if it's really underwater, and then all of the exterior windows are surrounded by gigantic aquariums.
That's amazing, dude. So the intent is not to like give the sensation. The intent is to deceive people.
I think it's sort of the
like the suspension of disbelief hotel.
Well, I think it's sort of the.
But how do they?
I think it's the unspoken.
Do they say feel like you're underwater in our hotel, or do they say
I didn't dig far enough?
Do they let you walk out of the front door?
No, they don't. You have to take the sub back to the surface.
Oh my god!
But no, I don't know.
Is there an airlock? A giant airlock?
Right. I don't. Emergency. My wife is going into labor.
Yeah.
Hop in the submarine.
Yeah. I don't know about like the ring of secrecy around it. Like my assumption is that it's sort of the open secret is sort of like if anybody was like, we're not really underwater, right? They'd probably kind of be like, well, just sort of like not really try to sell like you really are underwater.
But I mean, are you building all this up so like we're not disappointed when we play BioShock 2 and we realize
you are going to be disappointed when you play Fallout 3 and there's no underwater cities.
I'm sorry to spoil this for you, Chris, but when you're playing BioShock 1, that's also not underwater.
What?
It's a video game.
Far Cry 2.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to playing it today.
This evening.
Yes, this evening after
8 or
work.
so hours from now.
Yeah. Some amount of time of the day. Far Cry 2 looks cool, and I'm excited about it. And I've been reading a couple of reviews that make it sound promising, including one by my hero, Tom Chick.
Your hero, Tom Chick.
My hero, Tom Chick, because he wrote the most honest review of Metal Gear Solid 4.
I enjoyed that review.
That basically was exactly what I thought about the game, but it seemed like he was the only person.
That's how you define honesty.
Yes.
Right.
If someone's being honest, they say what I would have said.
They say what I want to hear. That's my kind of man.
It felt honest, and it was coming from the same place I would have as a player, and it was a standout because pretty much everything else was very kind of overblown. Yeah. And I've been a fan of Tom Schick's writing for a really long time, just like reading Quarter to 3 years and years ago and stuff. But anyway, the Far Cry 2 reviews make it sound like a great. I mean, Clint Hawkins talked about immersion, and it sounds like they really pressed hard on trying to make it an immersive simulation of being the character that you are in the place the game takes place. You know, like trying to draw out the feeling of I'm the guy that's there. You know, as opposed to I'm living a cool story, or you know, I'm being a super badass that explodes everything. You know,
the sense that I get from seeing it, and I've played the game very briefly, but mainly just from seeing videos and so forth, seems to be that they've really successfully captured the idea of a world that's just basically in. I mean, and I'm extrapolating a little bit, but I feel like the sort of atmosphere is a world that's just basically in complete anarchy and total shit. Where I mean, it just seems like things are falling apart. You know, if you light something on fire, it can spread and burn things down. Your character has to rip bullets out of his flesh. Like, it just seems like the most sort of just torn to pieces, just desolate world. And it just, I don't know. I'm sort of amazed at the lengths they seem to have gone to maintain that cohesion. And I'm really looking forward to sort of having a character that like exists in that and can sort of go to any length of you know.
Yeah. I mean, I like what I understand of the general structure, which is that there's a high level end goal and a beginning point, and you just kind of do things to try and accomplish that thing over the course of the game. And from the reviews I read, it sounded more structured than that. Like it is. Yeah. Which is fine. I'm not knocking it for that because a game that's largely just an open world with a lot of little authored subquests in it
is a game I will never play.
Well, yeah, but you're generally not into that stuff as much.
No, I'm not. I'm an old man of the video game world.
Yeah, I'm very interested in give me just an interesting place filled with interesting people or interesting little story threads and let me discover them.
That actually does make me feel like an old man who's confused by computers. I've discovered. Seriously, like I will play a really difficult, like physically like demanding and damaging game if the objective what you're supposed to do
that requires you to climb a mountain.
The sort of game.
No, but I know what you mean. You mean a game that feels like it's taking an investment from you. Like
I'll play a really fucking tough game, but if it's simple, and I'll play a really broad game. Again, like if what I have to do isn't
it's like straightforward,
right? But like when I'm playing even like fucking GTA, which is like the most sort of like the original and one of the, in my opinion, sort of more simple open world games in terms of what's expected of you, I just can't deal with it.
Yeah, what's nice about Far Cry is that amongst the main quests, you also have the options are presented like some of the side quests are actually just parts of the main quest. So while you're doing a main quest, like a story arc type of thing, you can just sort of go off and so you can. I don't know how much of the game because I haven't played,
but I mean,
I know theoretically you could play it as a directed game and just
that's like
sort of every now and then
probably Steve off. The opposite of you because you seem to be a big fan of games that get rid of a lot of the sort of regimented stuff. But whenever I hear that like a sequel to a game that I like has suddenly broadened out and has replaced what was formerly a UI and like start and end screens with a crazy world that you can explore at your leisure. It's just like, okay, well now I'm just never going to actually find what I want because I'm a stupid old man who clicks the pop-up.
I think that there's, I think there's definitely sort of they aren't mutually exclusive, right? Like I think because
as long as a degree of mutual exclusivity.
Well, I mean, as long as the directed part is as long as the very overt direction is optional. Right. Like for instance, when I was just a player of BioShock 1, I turned off the quest arrow, which is very good for people who want to know where they need to go next and be able to progress in a timely fashion, but can give someone who's more interested in exploration kind of tunnel vision involuntarily. And so I think you could have a game like Far Cry 2, as I understand the structure of it, where theoretically it's a big open world. It's just a web of possible experiences, but that actually there is a critical path of do this, then this, then this, if you purely want to progress. Right. That the game could, maybe by default, say, here's the next thing you have to do, here's the next thing, here's the next thing. And you can turn it off if you want to be exploration guy.
Part of the thing for me is that I always feel like in a game like that also, I know that I personally am never going to see all of the side content, but the game is just sitting there telling me, well, if you were a better person, you'd be getting a way better game experience out of this. Yeah. Whereas a linear game, it's like I'm playing through it, and if I happen to find a crazy secret or like a subquest presents itself in a formalized way, I know, all right, well, I know that right now this is my choice and this is my other choice. I really am just like a confused guy with a map. Yeah, and I don't know where I am on it when I'm playing those sorts of games.
So what you want is an option to just turn off side quests.
You're a dinosaur.
It does make me feel like a confused old man. No, and I understand, and like I love that style of game, but it just makes me.
I think I know where you're coming from because I had a similar experience. Actually, I just recently finished playing through Yakuza 2, which is a PS2 game that just came out recently. It's a Sega game, which actually I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I played through the first game when it came out, I guess, or a little bit after, and it's been a while, but you know, I think the second game improved on pretty much everything from the first game. That said, what I loved about it the most was that between the major story nodes, you know, the stuff you have to do to progress, there's a big open section of city that if you just wander around it and kind of scour it for content, you'll just kind of run into weird people that have requests or want to fight you, or they're having some disagreement and you have to settle it. Like, it's basically like in between, you know, story narrative point A and narrative point B, you can just kind of walk around and sort of bump shoulders with some weird dude who you know is quirky and has an hour or half an hour of a little bit of content, and you pull it out and you're like, that was cool. But on the other side of that was that stuff wasn't called out. Like, basically the only way to find it was to randomly run all over the map looking for it.
There wasn't like a loop of the guy going, hey, well, over here.
It's a like they're relatively large city sections that are sort of like a sort of a borough of GTA if you can only go on foot, because they're all walking sections. And if you get within view of a guy, he has like a big green triangle over his head. Like, yeah, you can see guys when you have already run into them, but there's no way to like open up the map and have something that says like, okay, if you're the guy who wants to look for all this optional side content, you can turn on the option that's going to give you arrows that point to where all of the little side quest guys are, so you can make sure that you see them all. Because I was the guy who wanted to waste as much time as possible between story points, but see all of the optional content, and there was no good way for me to be that completionist guy without just wasting an incredible amount of time just wandering until I thought I'd seen everything and there's still no way to know. So I think that a lot of it is just transparency, like making sure the player knows about all of the cool potential things they could be doing, and it's more of a decision of whether you want to or not, you know, than whether you missed it by accident.
It's funny, I've kind of, because I know, Jake, where you're coming from, because, you know, I really grew up on adventure games, which are as linear as they come. And most of the early games I played were like that. Eventually sort of have come to like really love that other style of game by sort of being forced into it by weird gamer like compulsions. Where I get that thing where I'm like, oh God, there's a dude there with a quest. I just want to get through the story, but there's like a dude with a thing. What if he has a thing that I need? And like, God, here comes the sirens. And I ended up sort of just becoming trained into the idea of doing that. And now, like, over the years that has occurred, now for whatever reason I really like sort of going and like inhabiting a world.
I suspect that I would like it if I had the time, but for now, like,
no, it's a fair.
Like it just like ups my anxiety more than my enjoyment when I'm playing a game.
And I've
definitely I'm familiar with that kind
confession.
of.
And I will say that
I've heard that before.
And Steve and I have had like different disagreements over these games, but you know, like I still love, you know, like the Half-Life 2 episodes where I'm just like 6 hours of awesome shit. Like, I love that a lot. So, like, you know.
My problem with side content is just like, for some reason I have this thing where I always assume that it's going to be content that is just of lesser quality than the main quest.
Well,
so I just like,
sometimes
if I'm playing
sometimes
a game,
it is.
I just Right, yeah, and sometimes it isn't. So
like in Mass Effect,
exactly.
I totally stopped doing the side content because it's bullshit.
I have a weird...
My dad designed that side content.
Oh my god,
that'd be amazing if that were true.
How could you have said that in front of that guy's
I hate his
son?
Dad.
Whoa.
And his dad's son.
That's me.
I know.
I for some reason I actually like that about side content. Weirdly, like I liked the side content in Mass Effect, and a lot of side content in Yakuza 2 is very similar because it's so low fidelity. For some reason, maybe some of it is from being in development.
Do you like filler?
I like kind of I like that it's low investment, both from the development side and from the player side, where it's sort of like, okay, clearly a designer on the team took like,
this is the time for you to fuck around.
Took like a
this guy did
an afternoon or 2 days or something, and just put together some low fidelity side content, and you can burn through it in 15 minutes, and it's sort of like, I guess that reduction of investment allows it to maybe just be kind of weirder or more one-off, or have less kind of artificial import I
like it when it's
spine of the story.
It's more artificial because that aspect of it is so transparent. Like, I can't imagine the guy just going like, guess I'll stick this thing in.
Yeah, like, I mean, for some reason I like that. Like in Yakuza 2, all the side stuff was pure text.
You heard it here first. BioShock 2, nothing but pointless quests.
It was pretty much all text and maybe a few like custom graphics or animations or whatever. And I guess I just liked that it felt like just, it had no pretense, right? Yeah. No pretense. Just like, here's a little bit of content that somebody thought would be a fun idea, and that is funny, and now I'm done with it, and I don't really have to think that it's some big deal or whatever.
No, that's true. I think it's like, I would be totally fine with that in sort of isolated instances. The problem is when you get a game where it's just hour after hour of like weird random people asking some dude they've never met before to go do like it sort of gets to the point where I'm like, okay, this goes beyond any bounds of,
and it really depends kind of what the tenor of it is, because if it is self-conscious enough to the point where it recognizes its own absurdity and is just sort of a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
Well, then you get like the No More Heroes side stuff, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, see, that's
collect these coconuts, and there's like a custom animation of a dude balancing coconuts in his arm, which is like the funniest shit ever.
Yeah, I mean that's what this stuff in Yakuza 2 was. It's totally like, you walk down the street and you see a guy on the street and he stops you and says like, listen to I'm a street rapper, listen to my new rap. And it's just text of his really shitty rap.
That's awesome.
That's great. And then a text window comes up where he's like, so what'd you think? And you can either choose like, that's pretty good, or that's really awful. And he just gives you a little text response of saying, because it did suck. And so I said, that's awful. And your character's like, that's terrible. Yeah, how could you do that? That's the worst rap I ever heard. And the guy's like, yeah, I thought that too. I just needed to hear somebody else say it. You're right, man. I'm going to go back to the farm and go back to being a beekeeper. See ya. I got 500 experience points.
That I advocate that fully. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And there was stuff that was more involved than that. That was
like, I left a thing on a planet. Find the thing on my planet.
When it's serious.
It's like,
no blood for aliens?
No blood for aliens. Yeah, I love it.
I still like some of the... I liked a lot of the Mass Effect stuff. Like
eventually, I gave up, and I'm sure I would have.
Did you meet the rogue AI on the moon?
I didn't like that.
I mean, maybe I
loved like the idea of going to the moon and landing on the moon.
Yeah, that part was great, but the actual quest was just like,
okay, so you just populated this planet with like...
you blew up some space bases and you shut down some computers. Like,
I mean, like the padding
there were
of
space bases with her.
Space bases.
There were space bases on. I lazed the space base. Yes, I did.
Oh my god. Blah 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 blog.
Laze spacebase.biz.
Oh man, we've seen Arrested Development. All right, let's finish. Let's do some reader mail.
Anyway, in conclusion, we all like Far Cry 2 apparently.
Well,
yeah.
I have high hopes.
I gotta say, Far Cry, just to cap that off, Far Cry 2 is one of those games where it better be awesome, because I've been telling people it's going to be awesome for like, and I don't usually like, you know, as being a journalist for a few years, you kind of start to just sort of be cynical about everything.
You got psyched up.
Yeah,
you got psyched up by Patrick Redding's talk.
I did. I saw Patrick Redding, the narrative designer, talk during GDC, and it was great. And I'm like, I want to play this game bad.
Yeah, you know, one of the reasons I want to play the game is because I really like that you get to choose one of 8 characters to be at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah,
I just think it's neat.
But yeah,
sweet. So we're gonna read some mail from you, the readers.
The readers.
I'm going to pick character number 6.
You read our podcast every week, and for that, we read your mail. We listen to your mail.
Thank you, Toblix, for providing a transcription every week of this podcast.
All right. Tom Ruiz writes, I suppose you don't need any encouraging to keep up the podcast, but just to be sure, I'd write in to say I enjoy the way you talk about games immensely, mainly because you offer a critical perspective that is rare and hard to find in most coverage. Thank you.
Nice.
We're critical.
Good work.
Yeah.
Guys.
Thanks, Steve.
On the subject of casual/hardcore gamers, I've been struggling with that myself. I've got all the platforms, buy more games than I should, but end up playing Geometry Wars 2 all the time. Instead of the stuff I feel I should be excited about. So I sunk more than 60 hours into that since it launched, and I can't be bothered with anything else. Am I growing old? Jake, you can relate to this.
I'm an old man.
Getting sort of casual, or am I just a simpleton who can't... Jake, you can keep, relate to this too.
I'm continuing to relate actively in real time.
Just a simpleton who can't keep track of more than 3 buttons at a time.
No.
Riding the autumn hype train will tell, I guess. Keep it up, guys. Also, P.S. Keep the songs short and sweet, Chris. I think that's wise advice. It took me fucking forever to write that thing last week.
It was an amazing song, though.
It was really
an amazing song.
Amazing.
Ultra Beast.
What?
I thought there was more of a question in this, but I guess there wasn't.
Oh, yeah. What?
I thought there was more of a question in this, but I guess not.
Anyway, we will continue to be awesome and critical. Thank you. I will continue to be a simpleton, just like you.
Yeah, I didn't really like wondered if he was being a simpleton.
You are not.
I don't think he's being a simpleton.
From one simpleton to another, you are not a simpleton.
I actually go through. I can't speak for the reader, obviously, but I've gone through like sort of waves where for like a couple months I will play nothing but like Zuma, Everyday Shooter, like Minesweeper.
I still never played.
Spider
Solitaire. You played Meteos for like 8 years.
Yeah, I played Meteos for like seriously 3 months. Except for multiplayer stuff at friends' houses, I went 3 months where all I played was Meteos, like right when it came out.
Wow.
It was ridiculous.
Oh my.
So, yeah. I mean, I think most gamers can probably relate to being in,
to being addicted to a thing, potentially guiltily addicted to it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yes.
That's the ridiculous part. I get guilty about when I'm not playing like sort of real games.
When you're not playing like man games?
Well, when I'm not playing a game that I like, this sounds
big boy game.
This sounds
serious?
Horribly cheesy, but like not even necessarily serious, but a game where I'm sort of experiencing a new sort of gameplay angle, or like perceiving a designer's
like
intention,
some kind of weird abstract for it.
Just like something that. I hate you. I guess I insulted you twice during that question, so I have it coming.
That's okay.
But,
you're a fucking bitch.
Thanks.
Whoa, buddy!
What? It's the internet. I can say this stuff in full.
Yikes-adelic.
Steve's body language indicates he seems to at least know what I'm talking about. So that's.
Yeah. The weird thing is, I've had much less of that phenomenon than. Like when there's a lull in big release, crazy, everybody's got to play this game kind of hype things that I kind of go back and
skate or die nonstop.
And I generally die more than skate.
Oh.
Don't know what I'm talking about. I go back and play sort of the semi-second string stuff that I've missed back when it was really released. Yeah. Like that was why I originally played the first Yakuza and stuff. Right. I sort of like it was like July and nothing was really coming out. And I was like, oh yeah, that game.
That's far better than falling into the Peggle coma.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's a good thing to do, by the way. I've been trying to do that recently, actually. Now the holiday rape train has started, so I can't so much. But for the couple
it's pulling into the Remo station.
Exactly. But for the couple months before this, I was kind of in that mode where I'm like, I'm catching up on stuff.
Yeah.
Bored video games.
But anyway, so Toblix, who appears to have registered a new email address to respell his name the way we pronounce it.
I'm pretty sure it's Toblix, so I'm glad that he changed it.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Why is it spelled?
Toblix.
But now he has an E in there.
And what's the domain name?
Well played, my friend. All right, he says, hey guys, your podcast is great, blah, 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 you're awesome, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if he's...
Did he actually type that up?
He actually typed
he did.
That's cool.
Yes.
He had a longer one, but...
Get to the question.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about how Steam's policy on VAC bans sucks my ass, and how stupid it is to spend money on an entertainment delivery platform that shows less remorse than Crusader?
That
I'm pretty sure
answer is no.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. That's the answer.
I guess they banned his account.
What the fuck he's talking about.
They banned his account. Yeah. He used the wall hack.
Mike Nowak writes, Hi, Mailbag. Hey, Mike. What are the trials and tribulations?
Chris Mailbag Remo.
That's MALE.
A mailbag.
Jesus.
The Man Bag coming at you every week on Idle Thumb.
All aboard the rape train featuring Chris Man Bag Remo.
Being cast into your face.
Cast into your face. All right.
Jesus Christ.
You said rape train.
No, I didn't. Chris did.
You said man bag.
Chris did. I didn't say any of that shit.
Okay, sorry.
All right. So he says, what are the trials and tribulations involved in putting these episodes live? Oh my god. You don't want to know. Well, I guess
we should upload the JPEG of you having to duck all of Nick's laughs last week.
Also, his other question, I think Steve can maybe relate to this. I want to know, am I a freak because the only Blizzard game that I ever played to completion was Blackthorn on the SNES?
What? I didn't beat Blackthorn. That thing was hard.
You probably also haven't beat any other Blizzard game, right?
I beat Diablo 1 once.
All right. Well, I guess you can't relate to this game.
I played through as a warrior.
You, Mike.
I think Diablo 1 may be the only Blizzard game that I've actually completed.
Okay.
I was a big fan of
Diablo's the new Blackthorn.
Oh. I was a big fan of Rock and Roll Racing on the SNES, but I don't think I ever finished like the last track on that either. So he was asking if he's what? Some sort of thing?
Am I freak because
am I freak?
Am I freak? Yes.
You are freak.
Yeah, next.
Yeah, I mean, so can't give us an answer quickly. I'm moving on.
Did we just vote on that?
What's your vote?
Well, verdict.
Okay, so I'm gonna say no.
No.
Yes, I'll play devil's advocate.
Oh shit!
Sure.
It's your okay.
Oh, it's a tie.
It's a tie.
Please send a tiebreaker to questions at idlethumbs.net.
Oh, that would be a good way to give away prizes.
Is Mike
oh yeah.
What if it's why you're a freak?
No.
You write in why you are a video game freak, and it's something weird. No, it's something weird about how you've played video games, such as Mike Nowak would have written in. No. I'm a freak because I only finished one Blizzard game.
I don't really like that idea.
I don't know.
God damn it!
You can just do that though, and we'll read your question.
I have no intention of writing that into you guys.
The readers, the listeners.
No, the readers.
Oh yeah, sorry. If you're reading this,
our listeners are erudite. They're readers.
Sorry, you're right. Idle Thumbs is about writing, quality games writing.
Idle Thumbs, a podcast
it's just
you read with your ears.
You still call that reading, right?
That was a good tagline.
When you listen to an audiobook, that still counts as reading. Right?
I read that book.
Yeah, exactly. So you say that. So you read this podcast.
I read Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
So if you write us why Mike Nowak or you are a freak, we'll read those answers next week. Questions at idlethumbs.net. All right, 2 more left.
I'm not going to listen next week.
This is actually kind of a big question, so I don't know if we have time to answer it. But WrestleVania says, "Could we have your thoughts on indie gaming, please? It's a very healthy niche at the moment, so much so that I feel like I'm starting to lose the wood amongst the trees." Which I think
that's an interesting turn of phrase.
Yeah,
been there.
Losing the wood amongst the trees. Yeah.
Camping trip.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
I think it's a good question, but I think we might have to table it till next week, actually, because we're really out of time.
For now, just read Tig Source for 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. Ninja Style, this is sort of hilarious. I'm concerned with what you guys said about Diablo 3. How short is it? If you were able to beat it several times in a couple days, that has me a little worried.
We were joking. Jesus Christ.
Oh, no.
We were joking.
Have you gotten angry emails from PR people?
No.
Okay, that's good.
I don't think PR people go by Ninja Style.
No. I didn't mean that guy. You covered your face like someone who had been abused by something that was mentioned.
He was being actively abused by that question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, because I could see someone saying like,
Nick
I
defeated
fired. Diablo 3 6 times in 2 days, and Blizzard being like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So to be clear, how much of Diablo 2 did you play?
About 20 minutes.
And that
you were
was
playing
like,
Diablo 2.
You'd say that was about half of it, a third of it?
That was all of it.
Oh, okay.
It's a 20-minute game.
Right, okay. So moving on, now that that's been clarified. James Campbell.
Did you get to play as the wizard? Yes or no?
I am the wizard.
Did you play as the wizard?
It's a role-playing game.
The Wiz. All right.
New class. The Wiz.
What are you making hand motions about? Nobody can see that.
Yeah, they're right. All right. James Campbell writes, "Hey, it was awesome to meet your team at E4All.
Whoa.
My dev group will be one of your best customers. The product was amazing. Getting another flavor of that is a flavor more based on granola and without peanuts is critical. One of my guys thought it was great, but then his I can't read this.
Here, let me try it. Let me try this. All right. Hey, it was awesome to meet your team at E4All. My dev group will be one of your best customers. The product was amazing. Getting another flavor that is more based on granola and without peanuts is critical. One of my guys thought it was great, but then his face went numb. It was a great laugh, but to some, serious issues would have happened." I'm not going to disclose who said that or why, but that was said to someone in a situation.
Should we say who it is? I mean,
James Campbell.
That'll be easy to cut out.
People's mind and ears. How it ends.
All right, on that note, see you guys next week.
Strong finish there.
Well, I mean, really, we gotta fucking.
I know. This is sadly
podcast.
This is fancy podcast EX.
What a weird podcast.
Video games. Ultra boost. 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 Ultra boost.
You smile at your fucking farts.